this is the fundamental shift. Once we declare Bitcoin legal tender, now it becomes a political football, which is a lot of people, that's what they want, particularly first movers in Bitcoin, because they want to be close to where the action is, where they get special privileges. Governments and citizens own gold as monetary reserves that hang like an unseen sword of Damocles over the Bitcoin market. Just as avant-garde Bitcoin techies have played the legal tender card in El Salvador, old school gold bugs have the opportunity to play the same card in the legacy markets. Now, I don't think any Bitcoiners have thought of that, but you do have, the central banks do have a lot of gold reserves. The governments have a large gold reserve. People do too. Citizens, particularly in the United States, a lot of these old-time, call them boomers if you want, that don't understand Bitcoin, they certainly understand gold. And they have reserves. And if they, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if it happens, it may be inevitable that to get the credibility back, the governments will go back to a decreed gold standard. If that happens, Bitcoiners have no right to complain because they've done it first right there with Bitcoin. Bitcoin techies will have no cause to complain. Yet, will they support such measures to restore sound money through legal tender laws they have embraced? Well, I would hope so. If Bitcoin is anti-fragile, and I think it is, such an attack should be embraced. Yet emerging trends toward Bitcoin crony capitalism, and I will do a read through on that article because it kind of outlines, I think, a danger. I'm not saying I don't know how we can avoid it. I'm not condemning anybody because I get it, but the fact is there is Bitcoin crony capitalism going on now, and we're all part of it to a degree. And it's just like, to the degree that I'm collecting my Social Security check, I'm a socialist because, one of my mentors, Hans Svanholm, when I asked him about it in my youth, he says, well, just don't collect it. Even though you're paying for it, don't collect it. Well, that's a hard thing to do, particularly when I was completely broke getting out of prison. Of course, I shouldn't have been in prison anyway, but that's another story. Yet, emerging trends toward Bitcoin crony capitalism indicate strong opposition to a fiat gold standard will likely occur from within the Bitcoin community itself. And there it is, an article I wrote, The Disturbing Trend of Bitcoin Crony Capitalism. I don't think Bitcoiners like to hear that. They like to call everybody in the fiat system crony. That's crony capitalism, but not Bitcoin. Well, it's the same thing when you're trying to get a special favor from the government. The legacy system and Bitcoin integration. The current disturbing trend is that the integration of Bitcoin within the legacy within the legacy system. This is akin to the sound money movement shooting itself in the foot. The argument is that regulation is a good thing, or if not a good thing, an unavoidable thing. Entitlements and regulations are not going to go away, so we may as well just embrace them so that we get the right regulations and the right entitlements. And that we can impose those on the market. As long as they're the right ones, the ones we want, then it's okay. This is the problem that we have with the free market. Everybody vocally want a free market. I mean, Murray Rothbard was the worst. He was for a free market, but we're going to impose 100% gold dollar. So we all have our little hypocrisies, and it at least lets it confront them and address them. Doesn't mean that we're going to get out of this thing. We're not going to have, it's never a perfect world, but that does not diminish what we should be shooting for. It does not diminish the ideal, even though we can't live up to it. The 10 Commandments are not any less valid just because we fail on every one. And I failed on every one, guys. So this, of course, begs the question, does Bitcoin really provide an alternative? Or is it simply a new paradigm, granting a brief reprieve that is quickly degenerating into centralized control?